Welcome to this portion of From Swarm to Starlink, Navigating the Satellite Legal Regime. These little videos are designed to supplement the material on the poster, not to be too extensive, just to provide a little bit more information. This section is going to talk about the upper right, the international aspects. You might ask yourself, if I'm a US company only focused in the United States and never intend to have my satellite or communications go outside of US space, do I even need to be worried about international law? It's a very good question, but the answer is quite simple: yes, you do. In the United States, and is likely in other countries as well, the highest level of law are treaties to which the United States has become signatory. So we have treaties, international treaties. We have US statutes, US regulations. Beyond that, then you have state government and so forth. But above the US statutes, we do have obligations based on the treaties to which we've become signatory. And in the space area, space realm, there are 5 treaties, United Nations treaties, but only 4 of which the United States has become signatory to. With respect to the treaties, there are related organizations, the United Nations, of course, and UNOOSA, the Office for Outer Space Affairs, COPUOS, and IADC. I'm going to show you where you can find more information about each of these, along with a lot of other topics on the web. So let's do that now. First is United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs. Lots of information here. I'm going to focus on going and showing you the space law aspects, treaties and principles that we just talked about. There are also space law resolutions beyond the treaties. I encourage you to check those out if you're so interested. But given that we were talking about treaties, I just want to touch base on those. As I said, there are 5 international space treaties. The Outer Space Treaty is the big one. It covers a lot of ground, more information than we have time to discuss here. The Rescue Agreement is really the treaty that obligates the signatory countries to help rescue astronauts or the equivalent cosmonauts in distress, return them to the country of origin, and essentially the interrelationship between us as a world community helping out when astronauts and such are in distress. Liability Convention is the treaty that sets out parameters and the guidelines for assessing liability when one country's object might collide and injure another object in space, or where one country's object descends from space back into our atmosphere and hits and causes damage on ground. How do you assess liability? Who's responsible? How are those disputes resolved? That's the Liability Convention. The Registration Convention relates to the obligation for signatory countries to register the objects that they put into space with the United Nations. Now, if you look, you can also find in space law the Space Object Register and find more information about that particularly there. The 5th agreement is the Moon Agreement. And we are not signatory to the Moon Agreement. In fact, the United States and Luxembourg have laws that contradict aspects of the Moon Agreement, specifically with respect to ownership of resources extracted from various celestial bodies. So those are the treaties. The United Nations for Outer Space Affairs, they have a lot more information here, not only just on space law, but also, for example, on space debris. I encourage you down below on the poster to click there or to select that small video segment to provide more information on space debris. The other organization that I mentioned was COPUOS, related, of course, to the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs. It's the Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. There's a lot of information there, particularly about COPUOS 2020. Now, the session that was going to be held this year has been postponed due to COVID-19, but there is a lot of information here. I encourage you to visit the website, COPUOS at UNOOSA.org. Again, if you go to UNOOSA.org, very simply, COPUOS 2020 will take you to the page on COPUOS 2020, and you can find more information at that location. Finally, again, specifically related to space debris, the Interagency Space Debris Coordination Committee. There's a lot of information here. I encourage you to visit this location, this site as well, and explore. Space debris, orbital debris, again, is discussed below. It's a hugely significant subject, one of which I also touch on when I talk about the regulations in the United States and how to access, search for those, and comment. This has been a brief summary on international aspects of the satellite legal regime. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Again, my name is Charles Mudd of Mudd Law. I wish you well, stay healthy, stay safe, and enjoy SmallSat 2020.